They called it the Enchanted Firelight Festival, as if magic were something gentle, as if all enchantments were kind. Once a year, on the last night of summer, the town of Brackenford gathered in the old square. Stalls lined the cobblestone streets, children wore paper crowns, and music drifted from the bandstand. But none of that was why people came. They came for the white flame. It burned in a tall iron bowl in the center of the square, taller than a man. By day, the bowl was filled with ash. But at dusk, when the sky bruised purple, the mayor would climb the 3 stone steps, raise his arms, and speak words no one understood anymore. Then the fire appeared. No match, no spark. Just sudden, fierce white fire, rising out of nothing, so bright it made you shield your eyes. Tonight, the mayor would always say, "The fire shows us our blessings." That was the lie. The tradition said if you stared into the white flame, you would see something important, your future, your true love. At least, that's the story told to children. Adults told another version in whispers. The flame showed you truth, real truth. The kind that scraped away comforting stories and left only bone. Most people just glanced at it and pretended they'd seen enough, but Mara did not. She was 17 that summer, all elbows and sharp questions. Her mother sold candied apples near the east gate. Her father used to play drums on the bandstand until an accident at the factory took his hearing and most of his smile. "Mara," her mother said, tying paper lanterns to their stall, "if you stare at that fire, it'll burn holes straight through your dreams." "That doesn't even make sense," Mara said. "It makes sense enough," her mother replied. "Some things weren't meant to be seen. Tonight you help me sell." "And you keep your distance," Mara promised. She lied. From the first note of music, her eyes kept drifting to the iron bowl they called the hearth. It stood empty for now, black and cold. But Mara felt as if something crouched inside it, waiting. By the time the sky turned red, the square was thick with bodies. Laughter, gossip, the scratch of fiddles. Mara smiled as a little girl in a rabbit mask shyly asked for the apple with the most caramel. "Here," Mara said, choosing one dripping gold. "This one's enchanted. It tastes like summer all year." The girl gasped. Saying "enchanted" out loud made Mara think of the hearth again, and the stories that said all enchantments have a cost. At 8 o'clock, the bells rang. The crowd quieted. The mayor climbed the stone steps, his voice worn smooth. "My friends, we gather again beneath the last summer sky." Mara stopped listening. She watched the bowl. Nothing. Then, like a thin chalk line drawn across the soot, the inside glowed. The brightness spread, washed upward, and spilled into the cool air. The white fire didn't behave like normal fire. It didn't crackle. It bloomed, rising in slow, silent folds. The flame shone like packed snow, like bleached bone. It cast no shadows. Instead, everything it touched looked sharper, drained of its safe colors. Someone behind Mara muttered, "Don't look too hard. My cousin did." "Never the same, Mara," her mother said quietly. "Help the next customer." "In a minute," Mara said, not moving. A line had already formed near the hearth. One by one, people approached and looked in. Most kept their gaze for only a heartbeat before stepping away pale but smiling, telling their friends, "I saw my promotion," or "I saw my wedding." Mara didn't believe them. You could always tell the ones who saw something else. they would flinch or freeze. One man sank to his knees, whispering, "No, no," until his family pulled him away, murmuring that he was just drunk. No one ever admitted what they'd really seen. Mara's chest felt tight. It wasn't just curiosity now. It was something hungrier. All year, she'd felt whispers about her future, questions she couldn't answer. Where will you work? Who will you marry? Will you stay in Brackenford like everyone else? She was tired of not knowing. If the white flame showed truth, maybe she could finally see something solid. So when her mother turned to get more apples, Mara slipped away. The music thinned behind her. The smell of sugar faded, replaced by something faint and clean, almost metallic, the scent of the white fire. A hand grabbed her wrist. "Don't," said a voice. It was Elias, the boy from the bookshop. "You don't have to look. It's just a trick. Chemicals, or something. Then why are you scared?" "I'm not," he swallowed. "Mara, my sister looked when she was 17. 2 days later, she packed a bag and left. No note. She ran away from something. And you think not knowing is better?" She shot back. Elias stared at her, his eyes dark in the pale glow. "Yes." Mara pulled her hand free. "Then don't watch." She stepped into the slow-moving line. When it was finally her turn, she stood alone before the hearth. Up close, the white flame was vast. It rose higher than her head, yet made no heat, no noise. It simply was. "Mara," her mother's voice came faintly from across the square. "Mara, don't," Elias pleaded behind her. Mara inhaled. She looked into the flame. At first, she saw only her reflection distorted, stretched tall and thin. Then the white deepened, and shapes began to form. She saw herself years from now, older, still in Brackenford, working at the same stall. She saw herself marry a boy from school, saw long winters and short springs. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't wonderful. It was a life. Then the image split. She saw herself at a crowded train station, backpack on her shoulders, ticket in her fist. She saw classrooms, libraries, strange countries. She saw herself older, alone but not lonely, standing on a stage, reading from a book with her name on the cover. 2 futures, 2 lives. "That's it," she whispered. "I have to choose?" The white deepened further. Another scene emerged. She saw the hearth, another year. Her mother, older. Elias not quite happy, and herself harder, with hollow eyes. A third possibility. In it, she stayed, not for love, but because the fire had shown her too much. She became the one who warned others away, watching the hearth year after year, waiting for something she couldn't name. The flame did not care what she wanted. The images dissolved, and something moved in the white something, not her, not a future. Something looking back. For the first time, Mara felt heat, not on her skin, but inside her head. A voice not spoken, but understood, whispered, "You want truth? Then take it." The scenes turned sharper. She saw her father at the factory, the moment of the accident. She saw horribly clearly the choice he'd made, step left, and save himself, or push the younger worker out of the way. He'd pushed. The town called him unlucky. The fire showed her the truth. She saw her mother, late at night, crying over unpaid bills, whispering, "I should have left this town when I had the chance." She saw Elias's sister, not fleeing an omen, but fleeing the knowledge that if she stayed, she would become bitter and cruel. The white fire showed Mara everything, every lie the town told, every selfish choice, every failure blamed on fate. It didn't predict the future. It revealed the end of every road you were already on. Her knees shook. She tried to look away, but her eyes would not obey. If you wanted comfort, the voice whispered, you should have stayed in the dark. Out in the square, someone screamed. Mara! Elias's voice was filled with panic. Stop her! She's been staring too long. Hands grabbed her shoulders. The connection broke. She stumbled back, gasping. Mara, look at me, her mother begged. What did you see? Mara opened her mouth. The truth clawed at her throat. She wanted to scream it. The fire shows what you already are. It shows the end of your lies. But as she looked around at the town's faces, she realized they knew. Not the details, but they understood the hearth wasn't a fortune teller. It was a mirror that never lied, and they lit it anyway. Because some people would rather see a painful truth than live a comfortable lie. Slowly, Mara straightened. I'm okay, she said hoarsely. What did it show you? Her mother asked. Mara thought of the 3 lives, staying and shrinking, leaving and growing, staying and rotting. It showed me, she said carefully, that I have a choice. The festival slowly resumed. The line for the hearth shortened. Mara went back to the stall and sold apples, but inside, her soul felt raw. That night, when the festival ended and the fire vanished, Mara stayed awake until the house was quiet. Then she packed a small bag. Not to run from a curse, but because for the first time she had seen herself clearly. She had seen who she would become if she did nothing. And knowing that, she could never again pretend she didn't have a say. At dawn, Mara paused at the edge of town. The hearth stood dark and empty. Next year, the white flame would burn again. It would show someone else what they were never meant to see. Maybe they would stay. Maybe they would leave. But the fire did not decide. People did. Mara turned away and stepped onto the road that led out of town. The knowledge of her own possible endings burning quietly behind her eyes like a private permanent flame. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more. See you next time.